Rev up your engines!
Matt Reimer says, Scotty, should I be worried about used cars from up north where the roads are salt having rust on the underbody or suspension? Yeah, you bet you should. Now, they are making the bodies better than they do in the frames. They use zinc-based primer and they coat it electrostatically when they're building them. So the frames and stuff don't rot like they used to. But, of course, the suspension parts do. I had a guy the other day brought me a car. I'm in Houston, but he moved down here from Cleveland, Ohio. And man, when I had to do a brake job on that car, I had to replace so many expensive parts because they had just rusted solid. And when I started taking them apart, they would just break. And I never see that on a Texas car here. So yes, all the other parts will rust. I would not advise buying a northern car that's used, that's got a lot of rust and stuff on them. That's why, I know a guy in Chicago, he comes down 4 times a year to Houston and he brings a car hauler, and then he buys like 5 to 8 cars and he pays $2 to $3 grand a piece, and he's got a guy in Chicago that gives them $5 grand a piece sight unseen as long as they got those Texas plates on them. So he tells the people this is a Texas car, it's still a good car. He's buying it for 5, he's selling it for twice that probably. So you don't want to buy northern cars when they're all rusted. Maybe the frame won't go out, but everything else is rusted too. Alexander Bobick said, Scotty, your thoughts on an 07 Highlander Hybrid? All right. I just worked on one a couple of weeks ago. I tell people, if you want to buy a hybrid, buy the Toyotas, they're well made, but buy them new. When they get used and worn, they cost a fortune. I'll give you an idea. The one I worked on, the differential, the rear end was going out. All right? That was going to be over a $2,000 job to fix it because it was a hybrid differential. It was mechanical and electronic. Very expensive to work on. A new battery cost over $6,900. Replacing an alternator on those. They don't have alternators. They have generators, part of the transfer case. That can cost over $5,900. Do not buy a 13-year-old hybrid from any place. Now, if somebody has one, they're giving it to you. What the heck? Don't look at a gift horse in the mouth. You drive it. If something big, expensive breaks on it, you just junk the thing. Sell it to a junkyard or sell it to somebody who wants to fix it. But don't buy a used one that's 13 years old. Official Rob says, Scotty, I've been thinking about getting an Audi S4 or A6 supercharged V6. 70,000 miles, 2012 to 15. Any thoughts? Yes. Don't. Audis, as they age, become absolute money pits, and the supercharged ones even more so. Now, you're going to be tempted because the resale values of those things is crap. Drop like lead balloons. So you can get a used one cheap. A few customers get used ones cheap, only to find they weren't cheap to maintain. And they all got rid of them after a few years of saying, I'll never buy another one of those Audi pieces of junk. Now, if you really want to get an Audi, you got the hots for an Audi? Lease one. Get a 2 or 3 year lease. Whatever the shortest lease you can get, you'll know how much money you're going to spend and ride it around. But don't buy one. They are endless money pits, especially in the United States. Jason S. said, good afternoon. I'm looking for a good used truck for hauling things from the store that's big or dirty and don't want to get my van all dirty. All right. You want something for hauling stuff and you don't want to get it dirty. You're not using it all the time. Look all around, depending on what size you want. If you're not going to haul too much, get a Toyota Tacoma. They can run forever. You can get one that's 20, 30 years old that'll still run. Or if you want to haul a little bit more, try to find a good used F-150 with a V8 engine that can pull stuff, and they're very good for hauling stuff. Now, a lot of times I tell people, hey, if you're going to haul stuff and pull a lot, you need a diesel. But believe me, you don't want to buy a used diesel that for hauling stuff around, you don't want to pay that much money for. Diesels are not good to buy used because they're so expensive to fix. So with that, I'd stick with like a V8 F-150. There's plenty of them out there. Mustafa says, Scotty, I'm buying a new 2020 Subaru Impreza. Should I get a CVT or a manual? I live in Northern Ontario, lots of snow. Definitely get a manual then. You won't get stuck in the snow because the Subarus are all-wheel drive. With a standard transmission and all-wheel drive, you are not going to get stuck because you can play with the gears any way you want. If it's spinning too much in first gear, put it in second gear or third gear and then really baby the clutch to get out of the snow. You can drive a standard, definitely get it. CVT transmissions are better. Gas mileage, that's the future, the way they're making cars, but they're not that great in the snow. I've seen people burn them out. I got friends that live up in New York State, upper state New York. They'll spin, they'll burn the transmissions out in them. You're much better with a standard transmission in Northern Ontario and all-wheel drive. Now, the Subarus, they can run a long time. I just worked on one the other day, 160-something thousand miles, still ran fine. Today's topic says, what do you think about which future car brands are going to be still alive in 15 to 20 years? All right, well, the big companies have lots of money, and generally, even though big things make lots of mistakes, they also sometimes accidentally evidently make very good decisions. So they prepare themselves. Now, especially the Japanese. Toyota, Honda, they're looking into electric cars. If they become big, they'll certainly be able to build them. Volkswagen now, they're making a big push for electric cars. And they're such a huge company, they got dealerships all over the world. I can't see them disappearing anytime soon. They can just change their model to fit what's going on. What a lot of people don't understand is production of things can be changed in a snap. Like World War II. Okay, World War II comes. All those factories in Detroit were making cars. 6 months later, they're making airplanes, tanks. It doesn't take them that long to switch things over to build something else. They're factories. You know, they were using the same engines and stuff. And I mean, here they could use the same bodies, the same wheels, just switch them to electric motors or batteries or whatever the heck they're going to make. Big ones are still going to be around. The ones that are smart business people, Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen, and Ford itself, they seem to adapt quite well to what's going on. Now, Chrysler, who knows? You know, I mean, Chrysler, Fiat, now Peugeot, the French companies in the mix. Who knows? Maybe they won't be around. I don't know about that. But there's still going to be a whole bunch of them around. And they're big enough that they have a lot of money, and they're just going to evolve into whatever the future is, just like the oil companies. They're not stupid. They make a lot of money selling oil, but they're investing in a lot of electric stuff and a lot of green technology that, hey, if it comes out that they're going to be able to make mirrors that generate power and make hydrogen fuel, guess who's going to be in the hydrogen fuel business? Them. They'll buy into it, you know? Just like broadcast TV. Everybody said, oh, broadcast television is going to go out of business. But what did they do? They bought all the cable stations. So, you know, the businesses aren't as dumb as some people think they are. They'll be able to evolve. But, I mean, companies like Chrysler, yeah, maybe they will go out of business. But there's a lot of them that are still going to be around. Trick Janice says, can the camshaft position sensor prevent my 03 Lancer from starting? Well, yes, it can. Now, if it's just barely going out, no, it would start and it would run bad. But bad enough, and they short enough power, the computer won't work and it won't start. What you want to try is, let's say you think that's why it's not starting. Unplug the whole thing. Unplug the sensor. Unplug that wire. If it does start up then, replace it for sure, because it's shorting the whole thing out. But a lot of times, more commonly, they just don't work correctly. So you get a code for the camshaft sensor, but it still runs halfway decently. But it is possible if they short out bad enough to make the car not start at all. Duck Hunt said, Scotty, should I install a transmission cooler to extend the life of my transmission? Well, you know, they're pretty well designed these days. And it's all designed by engineers to run at a certain temperature. You actually don't want it to run at a colder temperature because that could actually damage it. Now, let's say you got a big truck or something and you're towing stuff all the time, hauling heavy loads, highway speeds. Not a bad idea. You'd look at like a Ford 350 Super Duty diesel. It's got transmission coolers. It's got like 4 or 5 different coolers on the front besides the radiator. Heavy duty work. You need it. But for normal cars, kind of a waste of money, and you might actually damage it if it runs too cool. Modern ones generally already have some cooling systems in them. They're hooked up to the radiator system, so they actually work twofold. And in the summer when it's hot, the radiator helps dissipate the transmission heat, but in the winter when it's cold, they help warm the transmission up faster because the hot coolant in the radiator also helps warm up the transmission fluid. So, you know, they're not that badly designed. Most cars, you shouldn't go around adding something like that on just on a whim. K-pop fan says, what do you use to remove scratches on cars? Okay, just realize that if it's deep enough that it goes through the whole layer of paint down to the metal, you're not going to do anything except you could polish it and there'll be a hole there and you'd have to paint over it because it's down to the bare metal and then it would rust. You get a deep scratch like some swine scratches your car with a key and it's down to the bare metal. The only way to fix it is to repaint the whole thing. You can polish it all you want. It would always have lines and it would rust if it went down to the bare metal. That's the problem. You can only do light stuff. Like if somebody rubs against your car with the metal belt buckle or something, you can easily polish that off. And there's various polishes out there. You get that orange stuff they sell at AutoZone that's just basic light one for light scratches, or you can get heavy duty 3M ones and polish them. Just realize it only can go so far. Once it's down to the metal, all bets are off. You got to repaint the car. Justice and Vengeance says, hey Scotty, you always dish German cars like BMW, Audi, Mercedes. What about Opel? Good or bad? All right, first car I ever had was an Opel. Now realize this. I'll give you a little truth about Opel. Opel was bought by General Motors like in the 1930s. I believe it was like 1935 or something. And recently, a while back, they sold it and they don't own them anymore. But they owned them for a long time. And the quality of GM products, it's been going downhill for a while. Well, the Opel products, somewhat the same too. You know, they were never big in the United States. When they sold them here, they sold them at GM dealers. And I mean, if you remember back a couple of decades ago, Cadillac was selling these Cadillacs, and they were actually V6 Opels, but they called them Cadillacs. But they really weren't Cadillacs, and they were horrendous cars for two reasons. One, they had real high-tech German technology, and here in the United States, nobody knew how to work on it. The guys at the Cadillac dealer said, well, that's a German car. We don't know how to work on them. And the German mechanic said, oh, that's a Cadillac. We're not messing around with those things. And they never really mass sold Opels in the United States, so there's no place to get parts for them either. So in Europe, some guys like them. I know they make diesel cars and stuff, but understand that GM owned them for a really long time. Kind of ironically, during World War II, I mean, GM owned them. They were making Nazi troop trucks for driving people around. So kind of strange bedfellows there. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.